Hello there, survivors! Today I'm back with another build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended, and we're gonna be building the Visitor Center from Jurassic Park that I designed as a safe haven on my community server. It is a smaller version of the building that we see in the movies because I didn't have much more space for it, but I will probably at some point be designing an even bigger version as well. Now, as far as I know, this is totally possible to be built in official settings as well. You might need some custom cosmetics. There are some advice on those linked down in the description as well. But to make the most of this build, definitely would recommend building with mods. I used a little bit of Architect Structures Remastered. But again, you are able to build this without mods as well. And if you're looking for a good server to play on with mods, I do have my own community server. Info for that is on my Discord, which is linked below. Before we get started with the tutorial, consider showing some support if you like this design by liking the video, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, if you want to show even more support, you can always consider becoming a YouTube member. And with that being said, let's get into the build. Okay, as always, you want to start out with a foundation, and for this, we want to start out quite simple by just making a nice little circle with our triangles. And after we've done that, we want to take out normal foundations and go all around again to extend this shape. Then we want to take our triangles, fill in the gaps in between like so, and also extend them on the outsides where we had the normal foundations, with 3 of them going on like this. And then you probably can guess that we'll have to fill the middle parts in with a normal foundation again to extend this shape even more. And then we're going to extend it one more time. So on the full foundations, we want to add the triangles again, going out like this. And then on the remaining parts, we're going to, of course, fill it in with normal foundations. But first, all these triangles. And then filling in the gaps with normal foundations to get a decently sized circle, which is going to be our main building for this. Which should give you plenty of space for a decently sized base, as you can see. Then it's time to determine what your front is going to be. For me, it's going to be these triangles right here. And if that's the front, I'm going to extend the building right here on the side where the other triangles are, by a 2x3 foundation with normal foundation. So on that side, and I'm going to do the same thing here on this side as well. So extending the whole thing by the 2x3 foundations, as you can see, and that's how we kind of get those side buildings in there. Then we're going to take out our triangles on this part and going to fill them in. They should line up with these that we've placed before. We're going to take this out and we're basically going to fill in this shape. So from these 2 normal foundations, we'll fill in basically a 2x3 once again, but then with triangles, of course. And we'll do the same thing over here. So again, we have those 2 normal foundations. That's where we start. We have this line just go all the way straight and then make it line up with the other foundations we already placed down. And that is the complete side buildings. Then over here, this is going to be the main entrance, so that's where we want to place a normal stone gate. What the hell? Why is it looking so weird? Oh, there we go. That's where you want to have a normal stone gate. That's going to be the main entrance. And then what we want to do, of course, is have some stairs going down like so. That could be fine. If you do have overlapping available, what you can do is add stairs to these side bits as well. They will overlap into each other, creating these nice round stairs, and it just makes it look a little bit nicer. But again, if you do not have overlapping available, don't worry too much about it. And then, of course, you can check the sides of this if you can actually fill that in to make it look a little bit nicer like this, so that you don't have any floating parts. And this will all, of course, depend very much on your actual landscape. And of course, we can also fill in the main gate as well. And then we can start on the actual walls of the building. You want to start right here with the circular build, having walls that are too high. We'll skip that gap for now. We'll have another wall that's too high here. Another wall that's too high here. We're going to have another gap there. And then make this wall too high as well. Same over here. Same over there. And we'll just continue all the way along. Here we'll keep a gap as well. And then we can fill in this one too. So we'll almost have the complete circle in. Now what we want to do is grab our quarter stone walls. And then basically we'll make a little addition here by having 2 quarter walls on top of each other on all of the sides. And we'll do that at all of the gaps that we left open. This is so that we can line up the door in the middle of those gaps. On top we can just have the normal 2 walls again, like so. And then in the middle underneath, this is where you want to add a double door at the back here, because this is going to be your back entrance, just as a little extra way in and out of your base. And on these you can choose whether you want to have actual doors. I kind of prefer to leave them open like this. And if you do leave them open, you can still add either thin pillars like this to kind of make a little entrance there, or of course just the normal pillars if you prefer that look. Really depends on what you prefer. And of course also if you have mods, you probably have some nicer pillars, which I did in my original design as well. So we'll have some pillars along that entrance. And then we'll do the same here on the other side for these side buildings. So we'll just make those 2 little entrances. And then here, of course, we have the proper double door. Here at the back, you can then also add in a little stair so that you can actually reach your door as well. And of course, we can add in the actual doors so that the entrance is all safe too. Now this is where we want to have a circle of windows on the next layer. This you can either do with some mods like I have, the glass from the Architect Structures Remastered mod. But you can also use the Frontier skins from the Bob Tall Tales DLC, which lets you have Frontier glass windows. Or of course you can use other custom cosmetics. I think there's a clear glass one by Wildcard themselves and a bunch of other glass variants that you can even use on official. And then we just want to go all the way around on top of the current wall with a nice big window. This will allow a little bit of light to come in, which is always nice in my opinion. And yeah, it just also looks a little bit nicer, of course, but it still keeps your walls, which is very useful if you want to place storage or crafting stations against it. So yeah, you have the best of both, I suppose. Once we've done that, we actually want to go around again and adding another layer of stone on top of this, which is going to be the final layer for the wall before we start on the roof design. So yeah, we just want to go all the way around, adding these walls for a final layer, which also you can see now that it's a decently sized build that we've got going on. Now this is also where we can start adding in some pillars. We want to start right here on the back, having the pillars go straight up like so. And of course make sure to make them all the way down to the bottom as well. And then we'll just go around and make sure that on all of the corners here of these walls, we actually have the pillars going up and down, just as a little bit of extra supports. And of course it just also adds a little bit of extra details in to the build as well, which is always nice to have. So there we go. Then we should end up with something like this, which is going all the way around our build. And then on top of our door, we also want to continue the wall. So either you have to build up a temporary wall, you might have to remove the gate for this, depending on whether or not you have the overlapping enabled, and then you should be able to go all the way up like this. What you can also do then is adding in a little beam right there, which just adds a little bit of extra detail for your front gate. And then here on top, what you actually want to do is have a little quarter wall raise to this design, and then you can actually have your pillars going all the way up. What you might want to do is, for the temporary being, you place a pillar down in the middle here, because then you should be able to snap your beams next to it. You can remove that pillar then, and then just have these pillars go up. This is basically to create a little design going on here. And then what you also want to do is you want to grab a billboard. You want to make sure that you have no snapping enabled, so that you can place it a little bit further from the wall. And then you want to place them right in the middle, like so. And again, if you do have the frontier skin, this is a great use for it, because it just makes a little bit of a nicer sign, and then you can have your text on there, just as I did. And if you're wondering how I get different text to the default font, we're using the Scribbles mod here on the community server, which allows you to add different signs from Scribble to add text. What I technically did is I had this sign, then I placed a Scribble sign on top of here with the custom text to make it look a little bit nicer. Okay, we also want to take out our beams and have these going across above and below. You could also use the thinner pillars. I find that especially in vanilla, they just kind of blend in with the normal wall, so you have to still use the default beams. But some modded options like ASR, they have like medium beams and a lot more variations, and then sometimes it can be nicer to have them a little bit thinner than these ones. But I mean, this still looks nice and just adds a little bit of extra detail and structure around your windows. Alright, then it's time to get started on the roof. Now, very easily, we're gonna go and check where we have triangle floors, so basically where the doors are and where the gate is. And that's where you want to start with normal ceilings for the roof, and then we'll have a gap each time before we place them again. So I find it easier to go around and do this first. Of course, you could also just go around and do the full circle if you want to switch back and forth. But yeah, so we want to have the full roofs on there, and then the triangle thatch roofs in between to start making our custom shape for this round roof design that we have going on, of course. And yeah, basically going all the way around to get this shape in place. All right, then we come to this height, and then this is where things get interesting again. This is basically where we want to go in and make a ceiling round. So we start with the triangles, then we go into the normal ceilings on these smaller parts. And yeah, we just want to have basically one layer of these ceilings going around, just as a little break in the roof, adds a little bit detail, a little bit more shape to it as well. And so we basically want to go around like this. We want to take out the same windows that we've used before and make another wall here of glass, just adding in some more windows to your design. Again, I'm using Architect Structures Remastered Glass, but you can use any custom cosmetic or the frontier skins, whatever you have available to you. And then you should have a window like this. We're going to add a little bit of design to these on the normal ceilings. You're going to add 2 of those sloped walls, stone sloped walls on both sides. And then basically just go around all the way doing this. There we go. And then this is normally where I would add a diagonal pillar. If you have ASR, those are in there. But I just found a new custom cosmetic that does the same. So what you do then is you place a railing. And then this railing you can change with this custom cosmetic to a diagonal pillar. Now, as you can see, they are quite sturdy, these pillars. But it is a pretty decent alternative. Otherwise, I suppose that you can also just use the railings. I mean, that doesn't look too bad either. So I'll leave that up to personal preference, what you like more. But yeah, just know there is now custom cosmetics for diagonal pillars, so that you can use them in your builds, as you can see. And there's also thin variants of this, so you could also make them thin. But as you can see, that is very, very thin again. There we go. So that's another layer of this done. All right, then where we have the triangles, that's where we want to snap in our full roofs pieces, and then basically leave a gap each time and go around like this. Then we can take out our triangles to fill in the rest of the shape and go around like so, before of course adding the final part here to the top with just the triangles to finish our roof. Now this is what that looks like, and if you're wondering, wait, it looked a little bit more detailed in the other design. It did, because I used a shallower roof variant that you only can have in ASR, which just adds a little bit more detail to the roof. So basically what you can see, these are a little bit shallower than normal thatch roofs, so they don't go the full length of a wall. Basically they are the same slope as a ramp would be. And then just adds this little curve to the design. And it also makes sure that you still have this gap for the windows. Because if you would use normal roofs again, that would just fill in these gaps. So yeah, unfortunately, you won't be able to add in that detail with default ARK. However, what I would suggest doing is adding in these roofs at the end. Even though we do not have the other slope, I still think you want to have the little overlap going on, so I would still, at least for this layer, add in the extra roof. Even though this is steeper than I would like it, it still looks better than not having it at all, because then the build is kind of flat. So you want to go around with those roof pieces and then filling them in with these triangles to get that overlap going. And that's also why it's a good thing that we had this extra wall above the windows, so you can still see the windows there and don't get blocked with this new addition of the roof. But again, if you do have the ability to add mods, I would suggest Architect Structures Remastered, because then you have those shallower roofs, which are really nice additions to add some details. So that is the roof that we will end up with, or a variation of it depending on what you have to your availability. So that's the main structure done. Now, of course, we also want to focus on the side portions of this build. All right, now we can start out with these side buildings. First of all, we want to start with a 2-high wall in the middle of this. So 2 high right there. And then we'll add a wall right there on the corner, basically leaving gaps of 1 each time before placing the next, going all the way around this build. And we'll do the exact same here on this side. So basically skip 1 wall each time and then go around this side building. That's also when we want to take out our pillars, and then we can add in pillars to all of these as well, just to add in that extra little bit of detail. Now, and if you prefer, you could also only do them on the corners. It's just a matter of how many details and little extra layers of depth you want to add to your build. So yeah, we're just going to go all the way around here as well, adding in these pillars as little extra details for our build, like so. And you've probably already guessed it, this is where we're going to fill in windows as well, either using the ASR glass or other modded glass or custom cosmetics, the frontier skin, like whatever you have available. And if you've used in the build before, I would go with the same glass to have some windows. You could even just use greenhouse walls, of course, but yeah, I never liked those textures very much because you can't really see through those at all. But yeah, then we should have the walls for all little side additions to the build. And this is where you want to fill in the roof. So we're going to go around with ceilings like this for the main portion of the side building. So both sides we do the same. And then of course filling in this part with the triangles to fill in the roof for this part of the build as well. And there we go. Then we have the full roof on both sides. Now on the original build, I used a quarter layer of glass walls, but of course those aren't in the normal game. What I would go for, if you do not have those, I would probably just go for stone railings or metal railings, just any kind of thing to basically make a little bit of a edge on top of this building, so it's not just flat. There is no way to get up to this. I would use these parts to maybe place down some turrets, some plants, some decoration, but not much more than that. Now again, there's also a bunch of custom cosmetics available. This is like a modern structures. I'll link them below. And then you can also change the look of railings to be with a little bit more glass in them in the design, which I kind of like for these types of builds. Again, I'll link the exact name of this custom cosmetic below because I can't quite remember it. But it just allows you to basically get some extra structures. And most of these, if not all of them, are also approved for official servers. So if you just download them yourself in the mod menu when you start up the game, then you do have a bunch of extra building possibilities. Yeah, and then you have these nice looking fences with some glass in between them as well. And these glass textures you could also just use for the main walls to turn them into the windows that we need. And there we go. That is the smaller version of the Jurassic Park Visitor Center that you can use as a base. You have the big main room, and you've got your side buildings as well for all the stuff that you need to place. Now let's have a quick look at the original building that I've designed. As you can see, there's a little bit of extra details that I've added to here that you might want to consider yourself. First of all, I did place some turrets around, of course, to make the place safe. Up here I have the plant pots from the Bob Tall Tales DLC. You can use a shovel on plants, shovel them into a pot, and then place them down, and you can change those plots from pots to these crop plots. And that's an easy way to add some green to your build as details. You can see I've got those on both sides. If you're wondering about the textures here, I have used Architect Structures Remastered, which now has a lot of new variants for all of the building tiers. So this is just the stone walls from that mod, and then switch to a different variant, which I believe this is the brick variant. And here you can also see the medium beams and things like that. Is just a really nice way to add extra details to your build and some different textures than that you're used to. And then of course for the inside, this is the safe haven on my community server, so there's a lot of facilities for people to be using, but you could definitely also just turn it into your personal base with a lot of your crafting needs and storage needs and whatever. But yeah, if you do want to visit this base, you can actually come and visit us on the community server. You can actually come and play on the community server if you want to build with all these mods that we have. Yeah, the info for that is all linked in the description below. But yeah, this is just a way how you could decorate your base. If you're gonna use it as a base, probably different. And then here, instead of having the stairs at the back, I added a little back porch, so you have some room to maybe park some flyers or whatever, you know, just as a little bit of extra options to your build. But yeah, that is the way it looks. I am very happy with the way this design turned out. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll see you around in the next build tutorial. Goodbye.